Even before I had a TI-99 4A, as I flipped through old magazines looking at ads, I was always enamored of a company called Not Polyoptics. Their mascot was the program person, this cue ball guy with an impeccable taste in sweaters and an infinite void for a head. In an era where every successful idea seemed to spawn 100 imitations, their titles seemed unique, tailored to these new machines, bringing the vibes of 70s tabletop gaming and sci-fi paperback thinking to the first evolutionary steps of home computing. Today, we're talking about one of their finest hours, a game called Sanh. Not Polyoptics mostly went for board and strategy games, things you could execute in TI Basic without being enraged by the slow execution speed. Their programs had a thoughtful aesthetic, as much as could fit into 16K, and provided a lot more depth and immersion than you'd expect. They quickly became known for their distinctive packaging, and games where thinking was more important than reflexes. Sanh is one of their best games, and one of their most visually static. So hopefully I can convey the frustration and claustrophobia you feel while you're playing it, mostly while it shows nothing at all. You're in charge of 5 American platoons during the Tet Offensive in South Vietnam in 1968. You have intermittent use of a helicopter, a base, a village to defend, and paved roads used by supply trucks. Somewhere in that expanse of unmarked green playfield, 2 NVA units are starting across from one end to the other. You don't know where, or even from what side they start. You never see them on your map. You only see the aftermath when they come across a road, runway, or installation and destroy it. Each round is 1 week in game time, which ends when you've either eliminated the Viet Cong platoons, or they've made their way to the other side of the playfield. You and the NVA score points based on all sorts of encounters, and it's kinda hard to keep up with all of them, but I'll try to give you an overview. The bottom line is, it's a lot easier for them to rack up points, sow chaos, hobble your ability to wage war, and escape unscathed than it is for you to find them and take them out. If you haven't guessed yet, the letters A through E are your platoons. You fan out, or elect to sit still for that platoon's turn, and every 8 to 13 moves you make, a number selected at random, the NVA platoons make their own moves in silence. They move 1 square toward their goal in a straight line until they encounter an obstacle. Almost immediately, that tension kicks in. You have no intel, no clues, no guesses. You know they're there somewhere, and you're stumbling around blindly. You start to wish they'd destroy something just so you could at least narrow the search down to one area. When the NVA come across a building, road, or runway, they destroy it, scoring 7 points. They also jump down and to the left, anywhere from 1 to 3 tiles in either of those directions, so you've got an approximate idea, but not an exact one, where they might be now, and still no idea which direction they're moving. It's also possible for them to jump off the playfield entirely if they're close to an edge, which counts as a win on their part. They get 11 points for making it to the other side or for going off screen after an attack. If you move a platoon onto one of the NVA units, there's no contest. You eliminate them and score 9 points. And it's possible in their straightforward movement that they might walk right into your guys with the same result. You'll hear a little machine gun sound effect to know you've taken them out. What you're seeing now is the helicopter, which appears on the runway at random intervals. You can send it to a specific XY coordinate to drop a defoliation marker. You have to type the numbers in without seeing them and without having coordinates on screen. For example, the topmost square of the playfield would be typed 0101. What we just saw here was a helicopter shot down by an NVA unit, which gives the enemy 7 points, but reveals their position. Now watch as I move Platoon C into position, only for the enemy to walk right into them. And there, by a stroke of luck, Platoon D encountered the second NVA unit, took them out, and Week 1 comes to an end with the Americans in the lead. But there's still 4 more weeks to go, we have a damaged section of road to deal with, and 2 more platoons have just embarked on a new journey. This time they've showed their hands early, but they've left some damage in their wake, and all our platoons are far away from them. Defoliation markers are also used to repair segments of road. First, a platoon has to travel on that space to clean up the damage, and then a marker can be dropped on the blank tile. You saw that truck that drove in from the right side a little bit ago? If it hits a blank tile or wreckage, it'll crash. It can pass over defoliation markers and past your platoons. You get 6 points for every successful convoy, and the NVA get 3 points for every disrupted one. Keep in mind that if a truck wrecks, that spot can no longer be repaired, and the only way to make it passable is to leave a platoon permanently standing there. Now, the primary use of the defoliation markers is to help flush out the Viet Cong. Remember how I said you never see them on the screen? You can see a marker blink out if an NVA unit passes over it. Placing markers in diagonal patterns along some of the larger expanses of green space can give you a fix on a unit if they pass that way. That is, of course, if you can spare a marker from fixing holes in your road or if your chopper isn't shot down. Entering the coordinates can be stressful, but the game came with a paper map to help you navigate this rather tricky aspect. Khe-Sanh is designed to convey the futility and frustration of fighting a traditional war and defending what should be superior fixed assets against guerrilla tactics, what the manual calls lion baiting. And boy does it do that, to the point of probably being too much of a buzzkill for a lot of players. Clearly the subject matter alone isn't for everyone, but beyond that, it is a supremely maddening experience to be 4 or 5 weeks into a campaign with holes blown in your roads, less air support because of damaged runways, and the NVA just running up the score with wrecked convoys and more destruction than your overworked platoons can cope with. Here, for example, platoons B, C, and E all have to cover wreckage on the roads to make them passable for convoys, making any kind of ground cover almost impossible. Here's where things have really spiraled out of control. There is a lot going on here, and I'm frankly not sure how they crammed it all into an unexpanded basic program, but I am glad they did. If you play Khe-Sanh, try to score a copy of the paper map first, and find the manual online. You're gonna need a reference guide. And plan on 40 to 45 minutes for a 5 to 6 week campaign. If you're into this sort of thing, I can't recommend this game highly enough. Thank you to Not Polyoptics for the edge of your computer chair tension, and for bringing the war to the war room.